What's going on, Washington fans? We are here to recap day 9 of Commanders training camp in full pads today. We got a lot of updates today. Unofficial depth chart drops later today. I'll probably go over that. This is really the last, practice until the joint practice, and that's going to be against a different team. That's going to be a different, level right now for some of the rookies and guys that haven't been through this yet. Let's recap day 9 of Commanders training camp, but before we do, make sure you guys hit the like button, hit that subscribe button on the road to 2,000 subscribers. I cannot do it without you. Hit that notification bell as well. So, as always, we start with the house cleaning, meaning Dan Quinn's press conference, and then we'll go over the post-practice press conferences after this. So, if, they come out in time. So first thing Dan Quinn said, he said having guard Sam Cosmi, back in time for week 1 remains on the table, but certainly it's not a guarantee. I would say it's definitely on the negative side, right? You just don't have a guy that goes down in January and, you can't get him back. It's just, I'd rather him be fully healthy by, week 4 and not risk any further injuries than him play week 1 and, be on the edge, right? You get what I mean. So, Quinn still doesn't want to speculate on a timetable for him. Said Cosmi is working diligently to improve his leg strength and continues to hit all of his markers. Good to hear he's hitting all of his markers, but even if he hits all of his markers, he could still only be ready by like week 4 or 5. So, nothing impressive there. Dan Quinn said left guard Brandon Coleman, who went down in Saturday's practice, will be out today. So, he was out today. Left practice early on Saturday. Unclear if he'll be able to, make the trip to Foxborough. Man, it's just not looking great for Brandon Coleman right now. I thought he would be back today, but he might not even travel to Foxborough. That's a starting offensive lineman. Really important second year for Brandon. Hope he can be back. Quinn also said he's looking forward to his players seeing different styles during the joint practice with the Patriots, which is obvious, right? Because you need to face another team, right? You need to play against a defense that doesn't know your offense. They don't get familiar with your plays. So it's just going to be important for that. And then before we get into the play-by-play, I wanted to remind you what takes place this week. So it is game week for the Washington Commanders. The team has a lot going on this week. Today, we had DQ before practice and then practice, which I'll go over in a second, and then Cliff and Witt after practice. Tuesday was team travel day, Wednesday, joint practice with the Patriots at Gillette Stadium, 10:20. I will obviously recap that on the channel. By the way, Tuesday, I might have a Patriots content creator on the channel. I'm not sure. If not, I'll probably have a Commanders content creator on the channel. We'll chop it up and we'll break that down for you. Thursday is walkthrough. Friday is game day. All right, I'll give you guys updates on everything. All right, let's start with the play-by-play. Some of the things that took place before practice. Obviously, Deebo Samuel was in question for today, but Zach Selby wrote, Deebo Samuel is on the field, helmet on and stretching today. Samuel appeared to hurt his finger near the end of Saturday's practice. He's doing good today, by the way. He's really, really good today. Also, I do want to note, none of these clips in this video are mine. Shout out to all the Commanders beat reporters that I got these from. These are not mine. Okay, let's get to the play-by-play. Chris Moore and Luke with first team at wide receiver. Obviously, Chris Moore has been getting a lot of first team reps with the number 1 wide receivers because Terry McLaurin's not there. Noah Brown's limited. And Deebo Samuel, he hurt his finger. So not surprised to see Chris Moore there. He's been a veteran standout. We'll see if he makes the team. Today we get an unofficial depth chart. So we'll see where Chris Moore lands. It's obviously not official, but we'll see where he lands and where he's at currently. Luke McCaffrey also with the first team. Interesting. I think Jalen Lane has a shot to take over Luke's spot at the slot wide receiver, but I think Luke gets the first, taking, right? That's how it generally works because Luke was drafted before Jalen Lane. I also think Luke has looked okay this offseason. Linnell Willingham wrote, Tyler Owens continues to work with the first team defense, which we thought was really interesting the first day, but we've learned that he's been one of the best defensive players out here so far in camp. Had a really good camp, undrafted free agent last year. You need to continue to watch Tyler Owens. They really like him. They really like his services. He was a special teams ace last year. He's worked his way into more of a role on defense. He's going to get time on, the field on defense unless he really stinks it up in the joint practice or something like that. he's doing really good this year. He's got a lot that he needs to improve on, but right now he's good. His strength is good, so I can't wait to see him. He was getting more first reps with the defense as well. C-Rod was also getting first look with the running backs today. That's what Linnell Willingham wrote. I kind of surprising that he's getting the first look with the running backs, but maybe it's something that they do. I don't know. I can't figure out why C-Rod's out there with the running backs, but like first look with the running backs, I don't know. Linnell Willingham wrote that, not me. Okay. Zach Selby wrote, really nice catch in stride from Chris Moore working against Marshon Lattimore. The vet keeps standing out. Again, I talked about it. Who's going to get that sixth wide receiver spot? You know, you say, I don't really care about the unofficial depth chart today dropping. I don't care. I do. I want to see who that sixth wide receiver is. Are they going to choose youth in Ja'Cory Brooks, or are they going to choose a vet like Chris Moore, a guy that was retired last year like Michael Gallup, a guy that has good size, Michael Strachan? So I'm really interested in that. KJ Osborne, a guy that's had success in the league before. He's done really good before, but had a slow year last year, did nothing for the team last year. Who are they going to choose for that sixth wide receiver spot? I've heard some people say that they might keep 7 wide receivers. I don't think that's the case in a Cliff Kingsbury offense. So Chris Moore had a really nice catch against Marshon Lattimore. Bill continues to impress. Bill with a really pretty run to the left, one cut, and he made it into the second level. I told you guys, those vicious Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt cuts do everything. I mean, he made it into the second level on one cut today. He's looked really good so far. I mean, this is a guy that I can't wait to watch in the joint practice. I can't wait to watch Friday night. I am keeping all eyes on JCM, okay, because definitely ahead of schedule right now for a 7th round pick, but could he get some reps, week 1? I mean, we'll see, but he could get reps week 1. Like, maybe he does that, right? Maybe he earns his time through this portion of the offseason. John Keim wrote, have not seen Marcus Mariota, Noah Brown, Jordan McGee, Brandon Coleman, for obvious reasons, Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Updates later this week on the status. They don't have much to say at this point. And then who was the other guy? Oh, Mike Samerstill. John Keim also wrote he has not seen Mike Samerstill yet. So definitely interesting there. Why all those guys are not here. I think Dan Quinn has a process that he takes these guys through. I think he has, his plan, right? Because he gives guys veteran rest days. Some guys that are rookies and second-year players, he does something for them because Ben Sinnott was missing the other day, and we still don't have clarification on that. I think Dan Quinn likes to do things, for the second-year guys and rookies as well, give them breaks as well. So, which I don't have a problem with, but we'll see how that works in the season, right? Are they ready? Chris Russell writes, Jayden Daniels on an RPO right to Chris Moore, who makes a leaping catch along the sideline that got everyone going. Chris Moore, another catch. This one was a leaping catch. This one got the fans going. You don't think Dan Quinn notices this stuff? You don't think Cliff Kingsbury notices this stuff? That is what's going to, propel Chris Moore to make this roster, is things that are going to make him stand out in camp. Okay, things that, other players haven't done so far. KJ Osborne hasn't made a leaping catch. Other guys haven't made a leaping catch. So good to see Chris Moore get a good catch, and he had a really productive day this day. Does he push for a roster spot? Right? We don't know that, but he had a really good day today. And it seems like Jayden Daniels does like Chris Moore. Like, without Terry, you have to rely on other veterans, and Chris Moore seems like the guy that Jayden, maybe is leaning on a little bit to throw the ball to. Also, Deebo Samuel, obviously. Felix Trammell wrote, same starting 11 on defense, except Noah Igbenogany is in for Amos. Amos came in the next play. Offensive line is Tunsil, Wiley, Biotish, Allegretti, and Connerly. By the way, that's left to right, so Connerly at right tackle. So that is your offensive line without Brandon Coleman. Tunsil, Wiley, Biotish, Allegretti, Connerly. If this, continues the same way, Connerly is not going to have to earn a roster spot if this continues because, obviously Brandon Coleman's out. Hopefully he gets back, man, because that's, I was really excited for second-year Brandon Coleman. So we'll see what happens with him, but there's your defensive update there. As I always give you guys the punt returners, Zach Selby wrote all the usual faces: Jalen Lane, KJ Osborne, Demetric Felton, and Casimir Allen returning punts. Those are all the usual faces, but there is another face in here. B-Rob was back there today. Interesting to see Brian Robinson, catching punts. If he's not going to fit a running back role, right, make him a punt returner. Make him a punt returner and get Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, as your running back one. I'm just joking, obviously, but because B-Rob, they put all the running backs back there. One thing we've seen this offseason is they like to test all their running backs in as a punt returner, right? They've done it with JCM, now B-Rob. They've done it with Eckler, and they've done it with McNichols. So they've done it with all the running backs this offseason. So Lane, Osborne, Felton, and Casimir Allen are your punt returners currently. They did that today. JP Finley, I thought it was a good update to get you guys. Bill Merritt making plays again. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt continues to impress everyone. Continues to make plays. If there's one name that's kind of surpassed everyone else's, besides, Mike Samerstill, out of, this rookie class or this undrafted free agent class, it's definitely Bill Merritt. He's definitely had a great camp so far. He's definitely showing something that, us at home, we can't necessarily see, but people really like this guy. I mean, his vicious cuts. You can see it on the clips that the Commanders team posts. His cuts are wicked. I mean, we haven't seen cuts like that in forever. And people say stop overreacting, but look at, 2012, Alfred Morris. He was a, 6th-round pick, rushes for a lot of yards that season. So it is possible, but it's hard to do. Bill Merritt's going to have to work really hard to earn his reps this season, right? This could be hyping him up a bunch, and then joint practices, he stinks it up. He gets stuffed at the line every play. Friday night, he stinks it up. He gets stuffed at the line every play. He drops a pass out of the backfield, right? It could be one of those. He just hasn't seen a real team yet. We'll see, though. Zach Selby wrote, wow, absolutely incredible catch from Deebo Samuel. Good coverage from Jonathan Jones, but Daniels put it exactly where it needed to be. This is not the first time we've heard of Deebo Samuel and Jayden Daniels getting together and connecting. Obviously, Jayden Daniels put it right where Deebo Samuel needed it to be. I thought that was great. Jonathan Jones continues to be, fly under the radar. He's had a good camp. Don't let that fool you. But he just got beat by Deebo Samuel. Probably got beat by a pretty good pass by Jayden Daniels. I don't know if it was necessarily Deebo Samuel beating him, right? So, but good catch from Deebo Samuel. I like to see this chemistry continue. Without Terry McLaurin, you have to have someone else, to be your wide receiver one. Right now, it's Deebo Samuel. Also making this catch, it would seem that the finger injury has disappeared. Okay, so I hope that there's no more finger injury or any injury for Deebo Samuel. And then I also had another update. As I told you guys earlier, Mike Samerstill was not at practice today. Again, I don't know why. Here's a guy's name that we've heard more often recently. Grant Paulson put Matt Gay just drilled 50 and 55-yard field goals to end a kicking period. He's been nearly automatic all camp. It seemed like the first 5 to 7 days we couldn't get a single update on Matt Gay, but these past few days we've heard that he's making field goals from 50 plus. And 50 plus has been a struggling point for Matt Gay because last year with the Colts, it would have to be 50 and in for him to make the field goal, but now it's 50 and out. He can make those now. So Matt Gay drilled a 50 and 55-yard field goals to end the kicking period today. Always like to end the kicking periods on a positive note. Certainly something that Matt Gay has done this offseason. And, for a guy that we've paid, right, $5 million for, a lot of money for, that's really good to hear. So that was the play-by-play. Let's get to some of the things that Joe Witt Jr. said after practice. We also got a Adam Peters sighting. We did get one more play-by-play update here. Trey Amos picked off Jayden Daniels earlier and just deflected a pass intended for Luke McCaffrey. Fans responding by chanting, "We want Terry. We want Terry." So Trey Amos did pick off Jayden Daniels earlier in the practice, and he deflected a didn't deflect a practice. Sorry, guys. A pass to Luke McCaffrey. Definitely interesting to hear there. Trey Amos, again, continues to get after it, right? He's always going to get after it. I'm sure that, we definitely missed some plays, that nobody reports about, but all the other Commanders content creators on YouTube are not going to get, those plays either. So just bringing you the news. But yeah, so Grant Paulson had another thing here. Trey Amos was in tight coverage against Chris Moore. Jayden Daniels threw a ball slightly behind him, and Amos stole the ball from Moore off his back shoulder for a pick. The rookie continues to flash in the Commanders secondary. So I think that was the pick from Trey Amos. I think he only had one pick today, but I also think he broke up a pass on Luke McCaffrey, and he stole this ball off the back of Chris Moore. So Trey Amos, man, continues to impress. Also, something that Joe Witt Jr. said on rookie cornerback Trey Amos: Trey has a good day every day. I mean, that's what I expect, right? That's really what I expect. It's crazy that we actually have a good cornerback that can play outside. We just haven't seen it in forever. But that's what Joe Witt Jr. said. Trey has a good day every day. Also, from Joe Witt Jr., he said of Marshawn Lattimore, last year he fought his ass off. He didn't practice very often, but he's a competitor, so he was willing to go do that and not be afraid of the result. The Dog A competitor, sorry, I don't really like to cuss. The Dog A competitor said he remains a really good press player, nice feet. Marshawn Lattimore continues to have a good offseason. That's really good to hear from Joe Witt Jr. The praise for both of his cornerbacks. This is not something new. This cornerback room has been awesome, this whole training camp. So he spoke highly of Lattimore. He spoke highly of Trey Amos and his interception that he got today. Really interesting to hear from Joe Witt Jr. Joe Witt Jr. just finished his press conference. I'll get you Cliff Kingsbury's in a second. Joe Witt Jr. talked about, we need to fly to the football, right? We need to get turnovers. That's something he's focused on this offseason. Like, we have to get more turnovers. He said, we need the energy. He's excited to go to Foxborough, face another team's offense. He's going to get after it. He said everybody's on pace right now. Everybody's doing good right now. Everybody's doing what he wants them to do. So, good to hear from Joe Witt Jr. Let's get you Cliff Kingsbury's presser. Okay, Cliff had a lot to say. Very laid-back guy, man. It's impressive. He's just always so under control. But let's start with what he said about Bill. He said Bill has some good flashes. You can do a lot with him. He said, Bill has had flashes, but he made it seem like Bill hasn't looked as good as people have said. He made it seem like he's still got a lot of work to do, dude. He's a 7th-round pick. That's what Cliff made it sound like. He sounded like, why are y'all so... why are y'all overreacting about Bill? He's made some flashes. Yes, he looks good for a 7th rounder, but he's not as good as people are making it out to be. That's what Cliff sounded like. He said you can do a lot with Deebo. Again, he's excited to have him this year as a weapon. He said Luke has really come a long way. He said, Cliff said they're playing him outside a lot. They're playing Luke outside a lot. And he's made a lot of plays out there. And he said, he's kind of had to step up in a role that he wasn't really supposed to be in, without Terry. And so it's interesting to hear that Luke has made a lot of plays. He's done good. A lot of people are doubting him this year. He said running back room, there's a lot of guys there. This was probably the biggest thing that shocked me. He said there's 6 or 7 guys that will make the roster this year. That's what Cliff Kingsbury said. He said Eckler looks as good as ever. He said a bunch of these guys look good. He said Demetric Felton has looked really good. He said B-Rob looks... Well, he didn't even mention B-Rob. He didn't mention B-Rob, but he did mention Eckler. He said he looks as good as ever. He said, they got J-Mac. They got a bunch of different guys. He said 6 or 7 guys will make the roster this year at the running back position. So that really shocked me. But we'll see what ends up happening. He said ball security, they wanted to get way better at that, obviously, after the Eagles game last year. He said they wanted to be more consistent this year. He said the standard is the standard. He said, last year we were taking shots at teams. This year we have expectations, and we need to go beat some of those teams. He said, last year, he basically said in words like, we were just playing with house money last year. We didn't know what we had last year. So this year, we have expectations. This year, we got to go take our shots at teams. So I think that was probably my favorite part of the press conference. He said, we have expectations this year. He was asked about Josh Connerly. He said Connerly has made the adjustment from left tackle to right tackle. He said he's done great so far. He said, there is some fundamental things he has to take care of, but once he gets better at that, he will be good. He said, well, he didn't say he has to get stronger, but I think that's what he's kind of talking about here. Jalen Lane was the last thing he talked about. He said Jalen Lane has played great, super, super talented, very fast. He has been really impressive. He said that, when I watched the tape at Virginia Tech, he said he didn't look as good as I thought, but he looks really fast in person. That's really important for me to hear that. Last thing he said was the wide receivers have to stand up. He said one of them has to stand up and one of them has to be the bell cow. They're still working on that. He said we're still working through guys. We're still working through guys. Who's going to show up? Who's going to be the wide receiver one for this squad? He said, I don't really think he means Deebo in this. I think he means all the, Chris Moore, KJ Osborne, Michael Gallup, Ja'Cory Brooks, Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, Noah Brown. He said one of those guys has to stand up and be the bell cow without Terry, and he said we're still working through that. So that's interesting. It doesn't sound like anybody's broken out so far, although Chris Moore has had a good camp. He had a great day today. That's all I got for right now. That is day 9 of Commanders training camp. At 2 o'clock today, I will be on Reedy and Z's channel for their Monday command show. Sure, we'll be talking a lot about training camp and Terry's situation. And then at 4 o'clock, I'll be on a young kids podcast. I think it's called The Race Hail Report. So I'll be on there at 4 o'clock. And then tonight, I will probably be back with you guys to sit down and look at the unofficial depth chart that's going to release later today. So that's all I got for right now. That's the schedule for today. Tomorrow, I will bring you my joint practice preview. Have a good one today. You guys have a great day. Take care. Peace.